It's Friday, October 24th. The markets in New York are open, and our big number today, 470,000. That is the estimated number of new home sales for the month of September. So some home improvement needed in the U.S. as the housing market has slowed down a bit. That report coming from the Department of Commerce due out within the hour. Hey everyone, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York. So here with the details this Friday morning, market analyst Scott Gamm from TheStreet.com. Scott, good Friday to you. So how much was the number down then from the month of August?
Well, the estimate for September is about 470,000 compared to 504,000 in August. That's about a 7% decline. And, the home builders are really grappling with a lot of issues. They don't want to get themselves into a situation where they're building too many homes and then they can't sell them. So that's why we're seeing a bit of a decrease.
Look, put this into perspective then. Seasonally then, is this typically a slowdown time of the year?
Well, look, you have a lot of issues. First of all, the summer was always a slowdown, so we should be seeing a little bit of a pent-up demand, and we're not seeing that. But just broadly speaking, if you go back to the 90s, we saw 700,000 per month in terms of new homes. So this is just a level that is still below where it should be.
So is there one particular driving factor then from all of this?
Well, I think it really comes down to a lack of wage growth. The Bureau of Labor Statistics said that average hourly earnings rose 2% over the past year, but the inflation rate is at 1.7%. So if people aren't making enough money or they're not seeing increases in their salaries, well, the last thing they're going to do is buy a home. Plus, one of the biggest barriers to home ownership remains paying for it, making that down payment. So that's a really daunting task for people to save up for. And so if you're not seeing increases in your salary, you can't save for a down payment either. So that's causing problems as well.
Right, and really, aside from those that are looking to buy a home or that are trying to sell their home, really this is a larger economic indicator of some pretty good big significance.
It really is. When you think about the process of building a home, the contractors benefit, the appliance industry benefits, and then for consumers, when you buy that home, you're going to need furniture, you're going to need all these things, so you're spending a lot of money. That trickles down throughout the entire economy, and if we're not seeing new homes being built, well, then those industries are going to be hurt. Again, everyone is very cautious since the recession, because what happened before the recession is we had this glut of inventory, and then prices collapsed, and the homes weren't selling. So the builders are pretty cautious these days.
Oh, well, and lastly, Scott, I want to ask you about this, just the overall buying patterns and trends of millennials. Why are more putting off home buying these days?
Well, here's the thing with millennials. They're dealing with so many economic pressures, from high unemployment, also a lack of wage growth, as well as everyone else. But the other thing is student loans. So if you have a lot of student loans, you can't necessarily afford your rent, let alone, having enough money for a down payment to buy a home. So we're seeing millennials postpone home purchases largely on the heels of all these economic pressures. But keep in mind, millennials represent a large portion of the population, so there's a lot of pent-up demand when it comes to millennials. So once those people are ready to buy a home, we're going to see them flood the housing market. The question is, when will that be? Likely later than sooner.
All right, well, we'll have to wait for that. But in the meantime, though, what else are you keeping your eye on this morning? I know it's been a rocky couple of days on the markets.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of volatility over the past few days, few weeks, although we did have one quarter of the S&P 500 report earnings this week, and a lot of the earnings were better than expected, and the S&P 500 is on track for earnings growth of 5.5% compared to last year, so that's good news. But of course we had this Ebola scare last night, so that's going to cause some more volatility. But we'll certainly be watching how the rest of the trading day plays out. But keep an eye on earnings. That's the real red herring when it comes to the markets.
All right, we'll have to wait and see then how the week is going to be closing out. Scott Gamm from TheStreet.com. Scott, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Of course, you can keep up with latest headlines right here on abcnews.com. You've been watching The Big Number. I'm Dan Kleffler in New York.